You know, for the longest time, I had said that Ron DeSantis worries me more than Donald Trump because Ron DeSantis, unlike Donald Trump, is actually competent, right? He's able to do the horrible things that he wants to do versus Donald Trump, who for the most part only talked about them but was never able to accomplish them. I may have to take that statement back, though. Because after going through this lawsuit that Disney has filed against Ron DeSantis, I'm starting to believe this guy's not as competent as I was giving him credit for. Because as it turns out, in this lawsuit that Disney has filed against Ron DeSantis, they specifically pulled passages from his own book and passages from an op-ed he wrote for the Wall Street Journal back in February to prove that he retaliated against them for speaking out about the Don't Say Gay legislation. That's why he stripped them of their special tax district. And of course, that is why they are suing him. So let me read these passages. And these aren't just passages, again, from his book. These are passages from his book that Disney mentioned in the lawsuit that they filed. Here it is. In promising to work to repeal the bill, the company was pledging a frontal assault on a duly enacted law of the state of Florida. As a consequence of its disfavored speech and petitioning, things got worse for Disney. The Disney complaint carefully lays out the DeSantis versus Disney timeline, quoting the governor's literary musings on his efforts to rid the company of its special tax district. Quote, I needed to be sure that the legislature would be willing to tackle the potentially thorny issue involving the state's most powerful company. I asked the House Speaker, Chris Sprowls, if he would be willing to do it, and Chris was interested. Okay, here's the deal, I told him. We need to work on this in a very tight circle, and there can be no leaks. We need the element of surprise. Nobody can see this coming. Yeah, that totally sounds like something you were doing just because you were tired of their special tax district, right? Oh, you are going to be screwed over by your own words so hard, and I am so here for it. It gets even worse for Ron because, as I mentioned, there was a February Wall Street Journal op-ed where he said this. When corporations try to use their economic power to advance a woke agenda, they become political and not merely economic actors. In such an environment, reflexively deferring to big business effectively surrenders the political battlefield to the militant left. Leaders must stand up and fight back when big corporations make the mistake, as Disney did, of using their economic might to advance a political agenda. We are making Florida the state where the economy flourishes because we are the state where woke goes to die. None of that is justification for the legislation that you passed specifically attacking Disney and only attacking Disney. So that seems like a big problem because all of the words of yours that I just read, you know, buzzwords aside, I know you used a lot of big words to try to sound smarter than you actually are. To me, that's kind of the smoking gun in this situation here, right? Nowhere do you talk about how horrible it is that Disney has this special district, how they have abused their power and so it needs to be reined in. You haven't mentioned a single thing that legislatively would justify what you did. Instead, you sound like a bitter, whiny little child who's mad that their friend didn't want to play ball with them, so you're taking the ball and going home even though it wasn't your ball, it actually belonged to Disney, but you don't care, you're taking it anyway, right? That's what you did here. Your book, your op-ed, the actions that your state took last week to repeal the last-minute deals that Disney made, even though they made those legally, you're screwed. And I would love to use a much stronger word than screwed right now, but I was recently informed that there are children, apparently, that watch my videos, so thank you for that, kids. But at the same time, Disney has all the cards here. DeSantis has absolutely nothing. He is cornered and he is scared. And because of that, we can actually expect him to lash out even more because he doesn't know how to control his emotions. So things are going to get worse, or at least DeSantis is going to try to make them worse. But in the end, the only person he's making them worse for is himself, because it's all going to come back to bite him in that lawsuit.